Welcome to the first episode of the original Indeho series, the design company. The spotlight the powerhouses of the design industry, that are the companies, the family companies that with their intuition, their passion and their vision have contributed to define the history of Italian design, and not only. We'll investigate the stories behind these design epics and the values that made them great. So let's start this design series with a relatively young company that has quickly gained international attention. Thanks to its innate ability to embrace the evolution of brands, while at the same time remaining anchored to tradition, I won't tell you anything else. We are in the company of Giorgio Gobbi, CEO of Meridiani. Welcome, Giorgio.
Paolo, good morning.
So, Giorgio, Meridiani is just in quotes only the most recent step in a professional path that has seen you as a professional in another sector. I would like to investigate a little bit and understand briefly your experience and your arrival in Meridiani.
Of course. Well, my experience is a bit too long now, but it has always been lasting, but for good. Working in household appliances, then the world of bathroom furnishings, in the world of tiles, and then finally arriving in the world of design and furnishing. In the world of furniture in 2015, I joined a very interesting project called Italian Design Brands, of aggregation of excellence of Italian design, furniture and lighting. In this path I met Meridiani, which was the second company to join our group in 2016. Here it happened when the spark broke out.
What fascinated you about Meridiani's company?
Well, every company is a story. It's like a movie. When you approach a company, like in my case and my group, and then to let another group in, you only see a photogram, a still image. I really liked the freeze frame, but even more so the film that brought you there. It's a company that was able to leave not so many years ago, about 20 years ago. From a product concept and know-how, decades of experience in the upholstered furniture field to evolve into a complete lifestyle proposal tailored to those who have to choose it. So, the frame I saw is a company that has had a very interesting evolution and an equally interesting potential to express.
As you say, it all started about 20 years ago. I took the liberty of entering a little more deeply and interviewing Andrea Parisio, the art director of Meridiani, asking him to tell us an anecdote about how it started. If you agree, I'd send a film.
It was year 2000 when he created and deposited the Meridiani trademark. The first trade fair was in Cologne, and we found this totally ruffled place on the Rhine banks, and we launched ourselves into darkness. Because when we arrived, mind that I'd been there 2 months earlier to see this space, it was a scary space. It was a dirty and filthy warehouse. The first stand set up more than 20 years ago. It was made with iron platforms, and all the white products were placed there. We had no heating and nothing else. They even came with air ducts. I can remember that we were positioned first, then close by were Orizzonti, Boffi, and other companies. Those were the last years in that place. The space we had found was so crumbling and hideous. I had it totally repainted in black, had those panels done, all on iron floors. Mind this, until 6 in the afternoon, we hadn't had one person. At 10 o'clock, we had served 1,500 dishes of pennette, because we had hired a food catering service to do something dedicated to Italy. At 6 in the afternoon, a lot of people started arriving, and we came home with 2 folders of orders. So we had our first nightmarish day, but it had been a jump in the unknown. I remember I wore a brand new duvet, even though I don't like wearing things too warm. Crosti wore a cashmere sweater. We started painting black the outside of this giant shed with a brush and a roller. After half an hour, we looked at each other and we were all polka-dotted. We were painted too. We didn't know how to paint. This is how Meridiani started. It began like this. All the first real buyers were not Italian, but foreign buyers. From Belgium, Germany, Holland. And since then, there has been all this evolution, which started not 20 years, but 24 years ago. Because if I take into account my beginnings with him, I started from the 4th of October 1996. So it was a relationship almost like we were a couple. The concept of home that I've always had in mind and shared for Meridiani, first with Crosti, and then in the new structure, is the idea of a non-pre-packaged home. We do not like to have a single and constant format. We like the idea of having a home made up with pieces of Meridiani, but that can coexist with other things designed by others. Something that reflects the owner's past. And so we like homes that reflect something more of the personality of those who live in them. And that's it, that's the most important point for us. Surely Meridiani is much more complex than a traditional company when it needs to be commented, explained, and illustrated. Sometimes I see variations myself, and I'm pleasantly impressed by their creativity and inventiveness, and by how they are presented. Because, as they say, there's always trailing behind, but there's always someone who is ahead of me. I find that the most beautiful homes are not made by professionals, with some space left for exceptions, of course, but it is who lives in that home who really makes the difference.
Well, you describe Andrea as shy. Instead, he punches a hole in the screen.
Well, I suspect it's your fault, because I've never seen Andrea Parisio talking so much in front of a camera and with a microphone
I
on.
find him comfortable.
Definitely.
So in the latest years, we have seen Meridiani grow and evolve. Surely you are doing a great job also in design of the brands and all the collections. Andrea told me something the other day, but I want to leave to you to tell us about the main development assets.
As I said, the brand has evolved in the 20 years of life it has had so far. He was born from the decades-long expertise of the founder Renato Crosti in a very specific field, that of upholstered furniture, sofas, armchairs, beds. And in this, he has been very good at it. He worked in the sector for many years until he wanted to have his own brand, but he started with a very high-quality production, very tailored. A very beautiful product, very well made, very high quality at a fair price. From the starting point, today's Meridiani has grown like a mushroom. It becomes much more important. It is a company that gives total living, gives total style. That needs a presentation. That has built much more important values within it, and not only the well-made product. That was the original starting point. So much so that the value of the brand has been recognized before outside Italy than in Italy. For Meridiani, the most important market is Germany, one of the most difficult markets in the world, especially in the furniture sector.
It must have been the 1,500 pennette of the first day.
I think they helped to pass on the concept of Italian lifestyle.
So what are your plans for the future?
For the future, we are chasing the evolution of the brand with everything we need to support and sustain it. So, in all areas, from digital communication, that is now an obligation to be able to interface with our potential fans and customers, to the evolution of physical distribution, because from proposing a collection of sofas to propose environments, we need space to be able to express the concept that the brand can pass you. As a result, we are working both on the digital transformation, which I care a lot about, and also on the physical distribution of the brand presentation and its proposals.
So you talk a lot about the digital part, but to tell and get into the heart of a fascinating journey of this company, Meridiani, you decided to edit the book. Obviously, you don't have to call it a catalog, otherwise Andrea gets angry. It's much more. It's a narrative made by images where you tell different lifestyles and the various personalities who will live in these houses. So, why a book?
In the middle of the digital age
Seems
and
to
the
me
transformation.
perfectly in line.
I, who do not like paper, I have authorized the investment for the generation of this tool because it is a very important point of arrival and restart of that evolutionary process that Meridiani had, as I said before. Meridiani's philosophy is to propose a variety of finishes, solutions and combinations of colors and materials that make the brand unrecognizable. Unlike many other market players, the Meridiani brand is recognized by a common thread that connects all the settings that are made. It is a theme of style, elegance and class, but you can decline it in many different ways. The eclecticism of the brand, or versatility of the brand, of the proposal we make. Consider that on the range of sofas, we have almost 570 different fabrics to propose, ranging from the most classic expression to the most modern, to the most bourgeois. So this varied way of proposing itself, united by the common thread of elegance and style, needs to be proposed, needs to be shown. The current landing point is so important that we decided to dedicate ourselves not only to beautiful photos or the site, etc., but to a publication. Absolutely not a catalogue, but a publication, as I said, is the manifestation of 4 houses with completely different styles. How Meridiani can be adapted and can enhance environments different from each other. But as I said, it's a starting point because there are 4 rooms and 4 houses. But the versatility of Meridiani is much more.
Well, this is a bit the message that the company wants to give in general, because I saw browsing the various pages and a bit all the contents of the book itself. There is a very definite personality and a corresponding furnishing proposal for each style. Well, Giorgio, I will involve Andrea again since he's now able to dominate very well the television scene. Being he the editor of the editorial project, and told us that it was a project he had in mind for a long time. I would say that we have deepened a bit with him backstage of Storie di Case. So let's see the interview that I took the liberty to do it with him.
This is my first book. It's the first part. I'd like this to go on. The work was conceived in this way exactly because I wanted the difference between one home and another to be highlighted. And I wanted it strongly. It was decided to give free rein to the four stylists. So they made me their proposal. I looked at it. I corrected the things I thought that wouldn't work. I changed some elements. I made a supervision. I told them what I wanted, what I didn't want, then left it to their free imagination. Because if I had put my hand in it, I would risk to put them all on a par. And it wouldn't have worked, because everybody has their own style and their own idea. And you have to make that difference visible when you design a home. You can recognize Meridiani. Those who know Meridiani recognize Meridiani at first glance by simply browsing through the pages. That's the basis. If you look at Meridiani today, you can see its multiple facets, and that's kind of what we do in the various arrangements. You know the product. You can recognize the objects. The first house is very austere. It is very rigid in the choice of products. It is more monochrome, without different accents. The tones are very neutral. The colors used are almost natural, like beige and various shades of brown. There is a very impactful wooden structure. There are touches of marble with objects and claddings, but all in all the house is very sober. The second house made is of concrete, for example, and in its conception it had been designed for art collectors. In this house, so structurally strong, with all this dark grey cement and large windows, we chose a more particular decoration instead. More colourful, with less rigid forms. Meridiani managed to make a house of great impact, because in any case the photos are impressive. That fireplace with those 4 armchairs, the area with the curved sofa and the coloured table, there are some very strong elements, much more eclectic than the traditional furniture dedicated to that type of home. Because whoever takes this kind of shell normally gives a drier, more rigid interpretation to it. Already in the choice of the house, a different interpretation was deliberately made, a forced one. Here you realize how even in such a rigid structure an intervention made with colors, material, and a different idea can work. We did so in this Apulian house. The rooms, unlike the rooms in the previous house, were more airy with higher ceilings. A part of the decoration was already present in the house: doors and windows, floors and everything else. The house has rooms that are different one from the other. It has some areas that are a little more bourgeois, because it has a slightly more bourgeois and traditional living room with sofas, armchairs, and a central table that is a little more convivial. This is an area that was designed for the family, with a change of register in the colors and a choice of pieces. 2 dining areas, one dedicated to a more formal dining room, therefore in a more circumscribed and a little more austere room. In the other dining area, instead, this steel table was added in the room with fireplace. Unfortunately, you can't see it in the photos, with a terrazzo floor next to the kitchen. So there are many different sensations and settings. The house is a classic one, with an already very rich structure, with doors and windows, decorated floors, a large staircase. Here the furniture was deliberately designed with classic, softer lines, more sober colours. You know, honestly, what I would like everybody to understand is how it was conceived. Stories of different homes, so that people could see in these 4 settings the possibilities of developing homes with a very precise soul. A soul that corresponds to those who live in them. Storie di Case, that's it.
Well, an interesting project. We saw the very stories, the multiple interpretation, and the houses of these ideal owners who then inhabit these houses. Neither you and Andrea have mentioned the titles. But now that I'm reading them, here I understand why. Your marketing team has not chosen such easy titles. Evocative, of course.
Evocative.
At this point, I would like to ask you to make a game. For each houses, so for each story, you give me an association of dress. So how would you dress? Indeed, how would you dress? Who lives there? Let's start with the first house. That's L'Ombra di Sara, with a sophisticated mood.
Yes, I call it the house a bit bourgeois. Among other things, it is linked to the origins and the birth of Meridiani as the first style. Well, I imagine myself as a full dress, trousers and jacket, same colour, white shirt, an elegance.
A bit timeless.
A classic elegance, but not too formal.
The second one is La Luce del Tramonto, which is more an exercise in contemporaneity.
It's the one where I find myself best. I would match it with my favourite clothing, jeans, blue jacket and white
Perfect,
shirt.
well approved. For the third one, we are in the land of South Italy. Una settimana tutta per loro. So more invigorating space.
Yes, an air a bit more lively, dynamic and marine.
So,
I can imagine Bermuda shorts, a light shirt and slippers on my feet.
and away. The fourth and the last one, with a more classic presence and more classic style, it's called Il Futuro di Milo.
Here we go to the classic. I imagine a suit may be broken, but with a waistcoat and tie, a bit squared English style.
Okay, fine. I like it. We can say that maybe after Meridiani we take a dive into fashion. Speaking of houses, how do we describe your house?
I'm going back to the dress living. My house has been different things in the evolution of time. Because if the house is a dress, you also grow up and you use the clothes in a different way, and he lives them differently. My first house was a rustic little house in the middle of the trees, poor art style. My current house was designed by our art director Andrea Parisio, so let's say it has the style of a second house.
And do you think Andrea or you would draw my house?
No, I don't use those terms there. It's not my job. I see you in the lively house in
Yes.
Salento.
Well, I also have some Salento roots, so it could fit perfectly. It's okay. I'll take it as a good idea and I'll think it about it. Also because it's that house where I could have a bit of fun, both indoor and outdoor.
Yes, this is the latest news recently launched by Meridiani on the market. We have invested a lot and greatly expanded the outdoor collection, just at the request of our customer. Now, all the houses are living inside and outside. And, compared to the past, today the outside must be a continuum, a unicum compared to the inside, both in terms of style, but also in terms of furnishings. So, just at the request of the customer and customers in the world. Meridiani exports almost the entire turnover. Customers come from everywhere, from America to China. And the exterior is important, so we have created a collection, or rather, we have expanded a collection that already existed initially, which gives continuity between in and out. So there are outdoor products that are able to withstand the weather as technically as it should be, and that meet all the necessary requirements. But as styles, they can also be used indoors. They can be interchanged between inside and outside.
Against the trend, a revolution, obviously from open air,
Yes.
right collection name, from outdoor design, or at least
Yes,
and
and
outdoor
vice versa.
use also passes from indoor.
It comes from the market. All the countries in the world now do it. All the new residences have big terraces, balconies as big as the living areas.
This way it becomes a unique environment. There are no more barriers in living spaces. And have you already presented the 2020 new collection to the international network?
But actually only partially. The whole open-air collection is. We presented it in January on the occasion of an important fair, the Maison Objet in Paris. So we have already started to market and distribute it. Since there wasn't the Salon del Mobile, the other wave of novelties we had to present, we're presenting them now in digital form because we're still stuck traveling. We are presenting them to all our main customers around the world. It's just a business we've been doing these past few weeks.
Speaking about Meridiani around the world, I know that there is good coverage in the main European city. So the foreign markets are growing year after year. Recently, we have some inauguration about Berlin and China, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Shanghai. Let's say that this is part of what I was saying at the beginning, the digital evolution and the evolution of the physical world. The presentation of Meridiani's well-made proposal requires space, because we have to set up environments, we have to be able to express the potential of the brand, also in all its versatility, so with different finishes, different color combinations. So we started earlier with our own resources by opening directly managed single brand stores to show that they could work and learn how to manage them. We did it on Paris. We have a beautiful shop on Boulevard Saint-Germain, and in London in South Kensington, just as beautiful a store. Where we did all the experimentation that had to be done before involving external partners around the world and asking them to do the same thing. It happened last year. We opened a very nice shop in Berlin, in Germany, where not only did we open a shop with the Meridiani sign and a beautiful presentation, but we learned another beautiful lesson. People who believe in the brand and do this kind of business by opening a single brand shop become contributors to the brand. So the owner of this business, the one who opened the store, started to interact with Andrea Parisio, with our art director, and they started to influence each other. So she, and as the one who runs and owns the flagship store in Shanghai, which is a local investor, or even in Singapore, these people are becoming a big part of the Meridiani team because they are on the market. They live off Meridiani. They talk to our end customers, our user, and they bring us very interesting feedback. And Andrea Parisio himself, who is very curious, he wants to see and learn. He is influenced and contaminated by the input that these people give him.
Well, now the title of ambassador is very fashionable. But in fact, in form and also in substance, what are you telling us is the role these partners are taking?
That's right. And it's the path that we're also building in the world of physical distribution.
Do you already have a timeline in your mind? Or are there any new openings for this year or the future? Or wishes that you could like to explore?
Yes, we do not have the file also because the interruption causes a pandemic, has frozen many things, which forced to delay. But surely our goal is to cover the main world funds, a little. We already have them for something else. With an adequate presence and brand visibility, the level that the brand and the proposals have. So let's say our target is to cover the main European capitals with single brand stores, and then strengthen the partnerships that we have around the world with local retailers to have spaces representative of the brand.
So new flags where Meridiani arrives, and then other new Storie di Casa.
Absolutely.
Maybe see these projects continue to develop over time, as said by Andrea.
Exactly.
Okay, Giorgio, we've come quickly to the end of this first episode. Thank you for being with us and participating in this first episode of the Design Comedy.
It's me who thank you also on behalf of Meridiani. It was absolutely a pleasure and fun.
And then I must say that Discovery in preview the book Storie di Casa that, if I'm not mistaken, your fans, Meridiani lovers, but also those who will obviously want to discover more about the company can find in your monobrands, right?
Yes, exactly. In the single brand stores of our main customers around the world.
Well, let's say that those who want to satisfy the desire and discover more about the various personality store houses have no excuse.
Absolutely.
This was just the first chapter. The Design Comedy continue.